Today's lesson we will be subtracting rational numbers. I divided the video into two parts, so this is part one. I placed our poem up here in the left corner. I thought it might be helpful for you. So a little review: when you have the same signs, you're going to add and keep the sign. When you have different signs, you'll subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. Over here, since we're only doing day one, we are only subtracting decimals. So you will need to utilize KCC. You'll decide whether you're going to add or subtract the two numbers. Whenever you're dealing with decimals, you must line them up, add or subtract them, and then choose the right sign. So let's go ahead and begin with the first example. Now, if you like to have KCC written above the problem, you can do that if you'd like to. So I'll put it on the first couple of problems and you can decide whether you need to utilize it still or not. So we always keep that first term. Remember that the K stands for keep. So I'm going to keep my negative 3.5. We change all the subtraction problems to addition, just like we practiced yesterday. So this becomes an addition problem now. The 8.2, since it is positive, we're going to change that to the opposite sign. Now you can use your rules that you used before with addition. So just to review, when we have the same signs, we add and keep the sign. So we do have the same signs now. They're both subtraction or negative. So that means over here I'm going to show my work and I'm going to line up the decimals. So I have 3.5 and 8.2. Since they both have a negative sign, I know automatically my answer is going to be negative. So when I lined them up over here, I didn't carry the negative signs with me. I just want to find out what the total is. So 2 plus 5 is 7, bringing the decimal straight down. 8 plus 3 is 11. So my final answer then is negative 11.7. And there you have it. Now remember, the reason why we're keeping the negative sign is because these were both negative numbers. Moving on to the second example, if you would like to put KCC above this, feel free to do that. We always keep that first term or first number. We're going to change the subtraction problem to addition, and this number is a negative number. You can see negative 4.89, so I want to change it to its opposite. That's what this C is for. So the opposite of a negative 4.89 is a positive 4.89. Now looking back, we already utilized KCC. We have to decide whether we're going to add or subtract the numbers because if you look at this, the signs are actually different. Just like the poem says up here, if we have different signs, we need to subtract the two numbers. So in order to do that, I need to choose the number that has the larger absolute value, and that would be this one. The absolute value of a negative 6.3 is a positive 6.3, and the reason why I need to know that is because I want the larger number to go on top. I want the smaller number to go on the bottom, but I still want all of my decimals completely aligned. When you're missing a value right here, we can put that 0 there as a placeholder, so go ahead and put that there. Since I cannot take away 9 from 0, I'm going to borrow, leaving a 2 in that spot, and there's my 1 that I borrowed. 10 take away 9 is 1. I cannot take 8 from 2, so I'm going to borrow again, leaving a 5 there. 12 subtract 8 is a 4, and 5 subtract 4 is a 1. So my answer, I know, is 1.41. However, I still need to choose the right sign, just like it says up here. Since I do have more negative than I do positive, when I compare these numbers, I know that this is going to be a negative answer. Or if you also want to decide who had the higher absolute value, we know it's the 6.3 because we put that one up on top. So the second answer is negative 1.41. In the third one, again using my KCC, I keep my first term 2.56. I'm going to change my subtraction sign to positive, and I'll change the 3.1 to a negative 3.1. So now looking at these two numbers, I can see that the higher absolute value is right here, the 3.1. So when I subtract my numbers, I'm going to put that one on top and the 2.56 beneath it so I can subtract them. Now if you're asking why I'm subtracting, it's because this is a positive number and this decimal is a negative number. So we have to find the difference between the two. Once again, I need a placeholder. So I'll put a 0 there. I do need to borrow. 10 take away 6 is 4. When I borrowed from that 1, it left me a 0. So it looks like because I can't take away 5 from 0, I've got to borrow again. And now it's a 10. 10 subtract 5 leaves me with a 5. My decimal is coming straight down. And 2 subtract 2 is 0. Because that 3.1 is larger than my 2.56, it means that I have to carry the sign of that larger absolute value. So this is going to remain a negative 54 hundredths. Don't forget that decimal should be right there. Okay, let's move on to a few more examples then. Again, I'm going to utilize KCC. Now, if you need those notes, you're going to find that on your note sheet that those are still available to you. So I'm going to go ahead with these problems. If you need to look back at the note sheet, go ahead. Or if you didn't print the note sheet, you can always go back to the previous slide so you can see the notes there. Okay, so my 4.21 is going to stay because we are keeping that. We're going to change the subtraction to addition, and changing the negative 3.842 to a positive 3.42, or 3.842. There we go. So we did our keep, change, change. Now it looks like we have two positive numbers. So all we need to do is line them up and go ahead and add them. Because I'm not subtracting them, it does not matter which one would go on the top or which one goes on the bottom here. I can still add a place value of a 0 if you would like. So 0 plus 2 is 2, 4 and 1 is 5. We're going to carry that 1 and bring an 8 down. So my final answer is 8.052. It does remain positive because both of these numbers were positive. Over here on my next example, if we keep the 6.41 and do change, change, I'm going to end up with 6.41. This changes to addition, and this negative 10.3 is going to change to a positive 10.3. Since they are still both positive, I can go ahead and come down here and just simply line them up. When you're adding decimals and you're only adding, it does not matter what order they come in. All you're doing is adding straight down 16.71. Next example on this page, I have a negative number to start with, and I'm subtracting another negative number. So we always want to keep that first one. We will never change it, and you're going to find even in later classes, you're never going to change its sign. We're going to change the subtraction to addition, and this negative also becomes a positive 6.8. In this one, we do not have the same signs. We have a negative and we have a positive. So we must find the difference. Now 12.45 has a larger absolute value than the one that follows it right here. So this is the number I want to put on top. I am going to subtract from it 6.8. I do need a placeholder right there, so I'm going to place a 0 there, and I'm going to go ahead and subtract now. 0 from 5 is a 5. I can't take away 8 from 4, so I am going to borrow from the 2. That becomes a 14. 14 take away 8 is 6, bringing the decimal straight down. I have to borrow one more time there. 11 take away 6 is a 5. So I end up with 5.65, but I do need to check to make sure my sign is accurate. Looking back, I can see the 12.45 would be the bigger number or the higher absolute value when compared to the 6.8. So in other words, I have more negative values than I do positive. So this must have a negative sign then, negative 5.65. In the last three examples, it looks like we're going to start with a negative number here, subtract 12.3. So again, I'm going to keep that negative 6.4. The subtraction sign changes to addition, and this is going to change to a negative 12.3. Since they are now both negatives, I know I'm going to end up with a negative answer. I can simply go ahead and align them. As long as my decimals are completely in a row and I'm just adding them together, it should look like that. And the sign is definitely negative since they were both negative numbers, negative 18.7. We are almost finished. So once again, we're going to keep that 8.9, the first number. We're going to change that to an addition sign, and the negative 12.4 becomes a positive 12.4. So remember, it's always keep, change, change. I can line them up since I'm just adding. It does not matter which one would go on top here. 9 plus 4 is 13. Carry that. 10 and 11. I get 21.3. Since the numbers were both positive, it does stay positive again. The last one, we're going to keep the 17.4. We're going to change that to addition, and the negative 21 becomes positive. Since they are both positive, we're just going to line them up. If you would like to put a decimal after the 21 and a placeholder of a 0, it would look just like that. 4 plus 0 is 4. Bring down your decimal. 7 and 1 is 8. And 1 plus 2 is 3. Final answer is 38.4. Okay, tomorrow we will tackle the second part. I hope this video is helpful.